Hey everyone, welcome to another conversation. Today I'm talking with my friend Ish Melton about drums. Ish, how you doing, dude? Hey. Ish.
What?
Hey, how's it going?
I can't hear you. I can't hear anything.
We're doing a video right now. You can't hear me?
What?
Okay, the glass case of motion is not gonna work. We're gonna cut and we'll be right back. Well, hello everyone. We are back with my friend Ish Melton. You're unlocked from the cage. How are you doing?
I'm free.
Free.
We're
so free in the Lord.
Free
I just love
indeed.
it. We're here today talking about drum dynamics and transitions. So Ish, give us an overview. What are we talking about? What are dynamics? Who are transitions?
Dynamics and transitions are your best friends. They definitely go hand in hand. I would say that a drummer kind of sets the dynamic, the ceiling and the floor for the entire band. So
Cool.
It's important, from a low dynamic all the way to the highest dynamic, that you're setting up the band well and you know exactly what you're playing.
Yeah.
As far as intensity goes. And then transitions, you always want to know where you're going. I don't think anyone wants to just walk and
Yes.
not sure where they're going to take their next step.
Yeah.
So transitions help, like in the roadmap of the song, transitions just help us get from one place to the next. Depending on if we're going to go somewhere big or somewhere small, fills and cymbal swells are two big ways that we can transition into the next section as a drummer.
Love it. Okay, cool. So starting with dynamics, let's talk about dynamics. I know we were talking earlier, you kind of break up dynamics into percentages. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so I like to put them into 5 different percentages. So usually start with 25, which 25% isn't a lot. It's present, but it's not too much. You know, you might be doing stuff on the cymbals, just whole notes on the kick drum, maybe a little bit on the toms. 50% is going to be present, but not massive.
Yeah.
We're not building yet. We're still present. That's going to be a lot on the toms. You'll have like maybe snare on beat 4 with some accents. And then 75% is going to be almost like a building dynamic.
Okay.
It's ramping up to what the 90% is going to be. You know, you're with 75, you're maybe quarter notes on the kick drum, maybe 2 and 4 on the snare drum, toms, big accents. You know, maybe 8th notes on the ride.
Sweet.
Just present.
Yeah.
And then 90% is full groove, all in, backbeat. You know, your typical swag groove.
Yeah. Swag groove.
Swag
TM.
groove. Yeah. TM. And then 100% is going to be like when you just saving that last piece that the MD is like, we've done all the bridges that we could possibly do, but we need something else, and you just always save that. You never want to be at 100% all the time.
Yeah.
That's always what you save for like the last resort, I guess.
So like a full drum beat would actually be that 90%.
Yep.
You're just saving that 10%.
Exactly.
I love too, you kept saying that it's about presence. And with each of those kind of steps, it's not that you stop playing when it's a low section. It's not that you're all of a sudden playing. It's about being present throughout, but how you kind of are, what your presence looks like in that moment.
Sure. That's a big misconception as a drummer. People think that you can, just because it's a low moment, that you have to be out. But you can actually add a lot without doing that much.
Yeah.
You know, like on a 25% dynamic level, if you're doing stuff on the cymbals, it can just help kind of inspire everybody to play low, but like play something to make it more present.
Sweet. Okay, well let's start at 25%.
Yeah.
I would love to hear an example. We're gonna do the chorus of Greater Than, and I'm actually gonna play this same track for each different dynamic feel so you can tell the difference against the same track. So here's the chorus of Greater Than. Let's hear 25%. So again, you're present, but you're not distracting from anything.
Exactly. Like it's there's something happening, but almost nobody's even going to notice that you're that you're playing.
Yeah, and you're kind of just hitting beat 1 of each bar on the kick, and then you're keeping constant rhythm on the ride. That kind of allows there to be rhythm. It's kind of you're leading the way. You're kind of setting up the groundwork for everybody else, but everything else is allowed to sit on top of it better.
Yeah, like a bass player in this section would know, like, I should be in at least with whole notes because the drummer is kicking on every downbeat. So
love it. Okay, so let's hear the same section again, but now at 50% dynamic.
Okay.
Man, I love it. Okay, so I noticed a few things. I noticed that the kick drum is doing basically the same thing as it was at 25%. Right. You've now taken the rhythm away from the cymbals, and those are now more accents, and most of the rhythm, the driving rhythm, is coming from the toms. And then you've got the appearance of the snare now.
Snare.
Everybody loves the snare.
The worship snare.
Exactly. Okay, I love that. So that's 50%. So now let's hear, again, the same section. Let's hear 75%. So again, now the kick drum is going to quarter notes. You got the snare still, and then now we're back to the driving rhythm on the ride.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah, that eighth note pattern on the ride just helps just keep that low wash intensity where it's not like you're not bashing the ride cymbal, but it just brings that extra energy where you're filling up that space so people don't feel, like people in the band don't feel insecure about what they're playing. Like it's just, there's a lot of presence there.
And I love too, you mentioned that 75% often feels more like it's a build, like that's kind of building the anticipation for the release of the backbeat.
Right.
And you could feel that within that beat was, it felt like you were about to come up onto something else.
Yeah, it's a great dynamic level where you could bring it down like we just did, or it's like, okay, I'm waiting for him to build to that backbeat.
Awesome. Okay, so now let's hear the backbeat. Let's hear 90%. That's so great. And so that sounds like what a non-drummer thinks of when I think of a drum beat. You know, you've got the kick, you've got the snare. It's pretty much all laid out there.
Right. Yeah. That's like probably my favorite dynamic level to live in. But yeah, you've got a full groove happening. You don't, again, fills in between the phrase, but not too much happening to where it's just like the biggest you can get. But that's typically where you'll live on most songs. You may never get to 100.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of my favorite dynamic levels. 90 is good.
Yeah, so you're still holding on to that 10%. I'd love to jump to the bridge where you would kind of live in that 100 space. You finally pull out that extra 10%. That extra 10%. So let's hear 100% on the bridge of Greater Than.
Okay.
That's so good. That beat gets me every time. Every time the bap-boom, boom, bap-boom, boom.
It's
every
fun.
time it takes it, that extra 10% does something. It's not just the playing, but it kind of brings something else to the song.
Right, and again, like there, it's actually great that we can bring this up. The band is driving, like everybody is playing a lot. Like it's just the bass is driving eighths, guitars are just driving. So it's an appropriate section to do something different on the kick drum. That's it's different than the pattern than before, but it's not going to distract from what's going on.
Yeah.
With bringing the intensity up, and it's not going to scare the team. Like, oh, what did he do? You know, if anything, they're going to feel it more.
Yeah.
And just drive that eighth note pattern that's going on.
I love it. It's not that you're not making a total diversion from the beat that you were on the chorus.
Yeah.
It's kind of just it's that extra 10%.
Sure.
And it's also, I notice, it's not that you're necessarily playing that much harder.
Right.
It's that you're choosing things to add in or just adjust here and there just to kind of add a different feel.
Yeah, that's at a really important note actually. With the 100%, just because it's 100% dynamic level and it's like the next level up doesn't mean you have to hit harder. A lot of the times the audio engineers, you know, they're dialing in compression, EQs, and the harder you hit sometimes it actually chokes the drums quite a bit more. Like I know like on a drums only chorus, like guys will tend to just like hit way harder just because it's my time, it's my moment, you know, but it's actually good on those big dynamic levels to just play the same with, you know, and bring up the intensity with parts rather than just like smashing everything.
Yes, I love it. The it's my moment thing.
Yes.
I think we've all had experiences where we either thought it was our moment or somebody else thought it was their moment. Maybe the dynamic that was being called for in a section was 25, but maybe they were given 90. So I would love to hear what not to do. So let's hear a verse of greater than.
This will be fun.
And I want to hear an inappropriate dynamic.
This is
for
my
a
moment
verse.
right now.
This is your moment. Let's do it.
Verse, 2, 3, 4.
That's so good. Somebody call Dave Grohl, okay?
Oh gosh.
I love that because it sounds great. It's cool. We all love to be able to just slam drums sometimes, but it's not what the moment's asking for.
Exactly, right.
And on the flip side, if it's a big section, you also don't want to be playing too low. So let's hear that big bridge again, but let's hear like 25%, all right? Which, you know, that example, I think, versus the other one.
It's not
I
terrible.
think you'd prefer that to the other. So I think, in general, less is more.
Right.
Whenever you're not sure what to do, maybe just go a little bit less than you think you should.
Less than?
Lesser than.
Lesser than.
That's the rule of the day, lesser than. I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry, I distracted
No,
you.
you're fine. So playing less, you feel something is missing in the moment because that's supposed to be the climactic moment of the song, and if you're not serving that moment, it feels like something's missing.
Right. Even like as I'm listening to the tracks, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm so out of place.
Yeah.
Playing like everybody's driving and I'm not playing the right part.
And that requires you listening. You've got to be able to hear everybody and what they're doing to make sure that you're hitting the right spot.
Right, exactly.
Man, I love it. Okay, so talking about dynamics, let's move on to transitions.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier cymbal swells and fills. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think like the two main ways to transition as a drummer are cymbal swells and fills. Typically you'll have a cymbal swell that's going into, either it's gonna come down into a section or it's coming into a section that's kind of a lower dynamic.
Okay, cool. So you're kind of ramping down a little bit.
Right, right. And then drum fills, typically you're gonna be able to use a drum fill to transition into a bigger section, you know, from a chorus to a big bridge, you know, you might do a big snare fill or something like that.
Yeah, which these are not like hard and fast rules, but a good kind of framework of thinking about the difference. Love it. Okay, cool. So let's hear a cymbal swell. We're gonna come out of the chorus into the turnaround.
Yeah.
Love that. That felt like we were heading into a verse.
Right.
Because typically out of a turnaround or a chorus, when you go back into a verse, you'll bring some level of dynamic down, and it felt like, oh, this is very appropriate for the moment.
Right, exactly. And with cymbal swells too, like, it's important to note, a lot of people will try to just play them out of time. And it's really, I would try to keep it within a quarter note or eighth note rhythm if you can, just to,
Yeah, so you're locking into the rhythm. You're not just.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, it's not
like an orchestral.
Yes.
You know
All
what I mean?
right.
So,
Love it.
Yeah. Anyways, just a little note there. But.
Love it. Okay, so let's hear an example of a fill then. So if cymbal swells are kind of easing you into a section.
Exactly.
A fill is a more kind of ramp up. So let's hear a fill out of that verse into the chorus. What's so great about that is that wasn't a drum solo.
Right.
It was pretty simple, but it was also a diversion from just the beat itself, and it kind of led you into that next section.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just 4 notes on the snare drum.
Again, lesser than.
Lesser than is more than. Lesser than is greater than.
Lesser than is greater than. That's the word of the day.
That was the punchline I was waiting for this whole time.
Okay, so the same way that we felt what an inappropriate dynamic would feel like, if a drummer is approaching a drum fill and thinking, this is my moment. What would that look like? What not to do for a drum fill?
Oh gosh, here we go. We're gonna try that again.
That one was lesser than
that
is
was
greater than.
That was just nothing.
The least than.
You just don't want to do that at all, ever.
Okay, so let's hear another example of what not to do with a drum fill.
Okay.
Technically, very proficient. I think we'd all agree. However, not really what the moment was asking for.
Yeah, not at all. I felt out of place for sure.
So I'd love to hear the opposite. So if we're saying lesser than is greater than, what would be kind of the least necessary that would still give what's needed in the moment?
Yeah.
Hit me with it. It's simple, it's incorporating, like you had toms and snare, but it wasn't a distraction.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Ish, thank you so much. As we're finishing up here, I would love to know what would be your encouragement to somebody out there that's watching this, learning to play the drums, starting to play with the worship band, as they're thinking about dynamics and transitions. What would be your encouragement for them?
Yeah, so a lot of the times, we are able to, the more we talk to people, the more we learn, it's from downloading information. So I think the best way you can learn is not even necessarily being behind the kit the whole time, but listening to different drummers, different styles. But there's so many resources out there of great worship drummers, Bethel, Elevation, Hillsong. All those guys are great drummers to pay attention to, because automatically when you get behind the kit again after listening, those fills, all those transitions, the things that they're doing are going to be second nature because you've just been listening to that music already. So I feel like definitely listening is the biggest way you can learn and grow into different drum fills. And
man, I love it. Ish, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I learned a lot. I hope you learned a lot. And if there's one thing you take away, just remember, lesser than is greater than.
I had to.
We'll see you next time.
Yes.